Esha Kapoor and Daniel Stone's lives collided in Los Angeles under the guise of trust and protection. But what began as a seemingly harmless connection spiraled into obsession, betrayal, and deadly consequences that would shatter the lives of everyone involved. Esha Kapoor arrived in Los Angeles during a late summer evening when the warm wind carried the noise of traffic across the city. It was her first time outside India, and the size of the airport, the tall buildings she saw from the taxi, and the unfamiliar faces made her feel both excited and scared. She came to study architecture at a respected university, aiming to create a better future for herself and her family. Her parents had saved for years so she could study abroad. She felt the weight of responsibility on her shoulders from the moment she stepped into the city. She promised herself she would stay focused and avoid distractions. Her new neighborhood in Silver Lake was calm during the day and silent at night. Esha rented a small room above a bakery. The smell of freshly baked bread woke her up every morning. She would stand on the balcony and watch people walk to work holding coffee cups. She quickly adjusted to the routine. She rode buses, explored parks, visited libraries, and studied late into the night. She kept her life simple and predictable. She believed that staying disciplined would keep her safe in a new country. First time she noticed Daniel Stone was during an early morning jog in Elysian Park. He was patrolling in his police uniform, walking slowly and observing everything around him. His appearance was calm and confident. Neighbors waved at him. He responded politely. His job gave him authority and respect. Esha saw him as one of the reasons the area felt safe. She had heard stories about crime in Los Angeles, about people disappearing and robberies happening in daylight. But she never worried because officers like Daniel were always present in the neighborhood. Esha had no idea that Daniel noticed her long before she noticed him. She ran past him every morning at the same time, wearing the same headphones and carrying the same small water bottle. He watched her schedule without making it obvious. At first, it was just curiosity. Soon, it became a habit. He memorized her routine, the paths she chose in the park, the streets she crossed, and the building she lived in. He did not approach her, but he studied her like a pattern he needed to understand. Esha lived a quiet life and kept a small group of friends. She spoke to her parents through video calls every week and told them everything was fine. She did not mention loneliness, stress, or the pressure of living far away from home. She wanted her family to believe she was strong enough to handle the challenges. She believed it too, until she started noticing something strange in her routine. She saw the same police car near her apartment more often than usual. She sometimes felt eyes on her even when no one was there. She dismissed these thoughts as her imagination. Life continued without interruptions. She woke up early, studied hard, and dreamed about her future. She did not know that the city she trusted was hiding a dangerous secret. She did not know that the uniform she respected would soon become the reason her life spiraled into darkness. The danger was already following her silently, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. What began as small conversations between Esha and Daniel soon transformed into a secret relationship. It was not something Esha had planned or desired, but the attention felt flattering in the beginning. Daniel presented himself as a protector, someone who understood her struggles in a foreign city. His age and authority gave him an advantage that Esha did not recognize at first. He had the badge, the uniform, and the experience. She had youth, innocence, and dreams. He used this difference to slowly enter her personal life. Their meetings became frequent. Daniel would wait for her after classes or appear along her jogging route. He knew where she would be and when. Esha didn't find it alarming initially because he behaved politely, using his role as an officer to justify his interest in her safety. She trusted him just as others in the neighborhood trusted him. His reputation convinced her that he had noble intentions. He asked questions about her family, her studies, her friends. She thought it was normal. She didn't know he was collecting information the same way an investigator collects clues. Daniel's life, however, was far from ordinary. He lived alone in a modern apartment filled with police files, gadgets, and surveillance systems. His wife worked in another state, and their marriage was quietly falling apart. He felt lonely and frustrated. Meeting Esha offered him an escape. He saw her as a fresh start, something pure and untouched by his professional failures and personal disappointments. He convinced himself that she needed him. He believed he was saving her from loneliness, when in reality, he was slowly trapping her. As the weeks passed, Daniel started influencing her choices. He checked her phone when she wasn't paying attention. He commented on where she went and who she spent time with. He gave her rides and insisted on knowing when she got home safely. Esha confused his controlling behavior with care. She had no experience dealing with manipulation. Daniel made her feel protected, but he was quietly tightening his control around her life. The dark side of his personality emerged when he felt insecure. If Esha didn't answer his messages, he became hostile. If she spent time with classmates, he appeared unexpectedly to check on her. He knew her university schedule better than she did. His obsession grew with every passing day. He wanted to erase every obstacle that stood between them. Esha eventually sensed something was wrong. She began to notice that Daniel always appeared at the right place at the wrong time. He spoke less about her safety and more about ownership. She felt trapped, but didn't know how to escape without causing problems. She feared he would misuse his position as a police officer. She feared he could destroy her reputation or report her to authorities. She kept quiet and avoided confrontation. Daniel believed Esha belonged to him. The city lights, the busy streets, the crowded campus, none of it mattered. He was fixated on her presence. His desire to protect had shifted into a dangerous obsession. What started as comfort was turning into a prison. Esha was slowly losing her freedom, unaware that Daniel's plans were moving far beyond a simple affair. He was preparing to isolate her completely. The danger was growing quietly, hiding behind his badge and polite smile. Daniel's confidence began to fade the moment he noticed small changes in Esha's behavior. She no longer waited for him after class. She avoided returning his messages immediately. She spent less time jogging in the park where they first met. Daniel interpreted every shift as a personal attack. His mind was trained to follow trails and patterns, and he applied the same skills to her life. He observed her movements more closely and monitored her routines with sharper focus. The more distant she became, the more desperate he felt. Esha had met Farhan Malhotra during a group project on urban design. Farhan was unlike Daniel. He was calm, encouraging, and respectful. He admired Esha's ideas and saw potential in her designs. His presence gave her a sense of normalcy that she had slowly begun to lose. Their friendship grew in quiet moments at the library and in the architectural studio. They worked together long hours, sharing academic pressure and ambition. For the first time since arriving in Los Angeles, Esha allowed herself to relax around someone. Daniel found out about Farhan when he saw them together near the university cafe. He watched from a distance, hidden by a row of parked cars. Farhan's easy smile and natural ease around Esha made Daniel furious. He convinced himself that he was being replaced. His thoughts became darker. He believed Esha was betraying him. His jealousy turned into an obsession that spiraled beyond control. Daniel didn't react loudly or confront her. He slipped back into the role of a trained investigator and began collecting information. Using his access as a police officer, he pulled Farhan's personal details from the department system. He checked past records, identification, family contacts, travel history, and current address. He even used surveillance footage from nearby cameras to track their meetings. Daniel justified his actions by convincing himself that he needed to protect Esha from someone dangerous. In reality, he was building a psychological profile on Farhan as if preparing for an arrest. Esha, unaware of Daniel's growing rage, tried to distance herself. She knew their relationship had gone too far. She planned to speak with Farhan about the situation and seek advice on how to end things safely. She did not want drama. She did not want a confrontation with Daniel. She simply wanted her independence back, but her attempt to leave only opened the door to more danger. One evening, Esha and Farhan met near a parking lot after a study session. Daniel watched from the shadows as they talked and laughed. Every second that passed tightened his anger. He read their gestures as betrayal and disrespect. His mind replayed every moment he had shared with Esha and twisted it into a narrative where he was the victim and she was the enemy. He decided that neither of them deserved a peaceful life if they dared to move on without him. Later that night, Esha returned to her apartment and felt something was wrong. The curtains were slightly shifted, and her books seemed rearranged as if someone had been searching through them. She scanned the room, unsure of what had changed. The quiet atmosphere felt tense and heavy, like someone had just left moments before she entered. The air carried an impression of intrusion that she could not explain. She struggled to calm her heartbeat and forced herself to believe it was simply stress. But deep inside, she sensed a shift in her life that could no longer be ignored. Daniel was no longer just watching or waiting. He had crossed a boundary in his mind. A plan was forming, one that would alter the lives of all three forever. Farhan stopped answering messages and skipped classes without warning. His friends assumed he was sick or overwhelmed with exams, but Esha knew something was wrong. He was too disciplined to disappear without a reason. She contacted his roommates, checked campus, and searched social media. Nothing changed. The sudden silence felt like a warning. Her heart replayed the moment in the parking lot when she felt someone watching. Fear began to form into reality, and she struggled to breathe under the pressure of suspicion. The sense of security she once relied on in Los Angeles had started to collapse. Daniel appeared calm during those days. He continued his patrols as if nothing in the world had changed. His uniform still carried authority, and he behaved like a model officer. No one suspected him. He used his police knowledge to hide tracks and manage information. When Farhan's disappearance was reported, Daniel quietly inserted himself into the system. He accessed reports before anyone else and controlled what information was filed. He redirected the early investigation to make Farhan look irresponsible and unstable. He erased Farhan's identity from the narrative by turning him into just another missing person lost in the city. Esha sensed his involvement before she had any proof. Her instincts whispered that Daniel was connected, yet logic forced her to deny it. She felt trapped between fear and uncertainty. Her apartment didn't feel like home anymore. She struggled to sleep at night, imagining footsteps outside her door and shadows on the walls. The smallest noises startled her. She avoided walking alone and constantly looked over her shoulder. When she finally decided to go to the police and report Daniel's behavior, she expected disbelief. Instead, she found suspicion. She presented screenshots of messages, unexplained phone tracking, and details of Daniel's access to police systems. A quiet investigation began, but nothing moved fast enough. Daniel sensed the law shifting against him long before procedures could be completed. He was trained to recognize danger. He knew how internal affairs functioned and how quickly secrets could become evidence. He realized that Esha was trying to escape the world he had built for her. On a cold night when the streets were quiet and fog covered the neighborhood, Daniel broke into Esha's apartment. He used the same tools he used for crime scenes: gloves, restraint equipment, and silence. Esha awoke to the feeling of cold metal on her wrists. Panic rushed through her veins as she struggled to break free. Daniel dragged her out of the building and forced her into his patrol car. The world outside continued as if nothing was happening. Neighbors slept, streetlights flickered, and the city carried on unaware of the nightmare unfolding in front of it. Daniel drove to an abandoned industrial area on the outskirts. The landscape was empty, surrounded by broken windows and rusted metal. He hid the car behind a warehouse and prepared for the final act of control. His plan was interrupted when a security guard noticed the patrol car parked in a restricted zone. The guard had seen the vehicle earlier and suspected something unusual. He called the department to verify the patrol assignment. Dispatch responded with confusion, sending backup to investigate. Police vehicles arrived with flashing lights and sudden urgency. Officers found Esha injured and terrified but alive in the back of the car. Daniel was nowhere in sight. His escape was calculated and silent. The investigation exploded with new evidence and a horrifying discovery. Farhan's body was found the next morning near a dry riverbed. His death confirmed the worst suspicion. Daniel had crossed the final line. The nightmare had become real, and the entire city began searching for a police officer turned predator. Daniel disappeared into the city after Esha was rescued. He blended into the crowded streets of Los Angeles, disguising himself as a homeless man and using discarded clothing to hide his identity. For weeks, he watched news reports, feeling both relief and rage. Relief that he had avoided capture, and rage that Esha had survived. His obsession with her had not faded, it had only grown stronger. He believed that one day he could reclaim her, even if it meant starting over in secrecy. Every street corner, every public park, became a place to observe and plan. The city was both his prison and his hunting ground. Esha, meanwhile, tried to reclaim her life. The trauma of Daniel's betrayal lingered, but she was determined not to let fear dominate her. She returned to the university, finishing her degree with renewed focus. The city that once felt threatening slowly became familiar again, yet shadows of the past remained. She avoided certain streets and trusted fewer people, but she refused to let Daniel's actions define her. Friends and family supported her through therapy sessions and long conversations, helping her regain confidence and stability. Despite the fear, she found a determination stronger than before. The FBI joined the case after discovering inconsistencies in Daniel's previous reports and behavior. With their expertise, they tracked his movements using a combination of digital surveillance and witness reports. They discovered his temporary hideouts and patterns, revealing a man obsessed with control, planning further harm. The investigation intensified, connecting him to multiple suspicious incidents involving young women and international students. The extent of his obsession shocked the authorities. It was no longer a case of a single act of violence. Daniel had been preparing for long-term manipulation and attacks. Weeks later, Daniel attempted to enter Esha's university using a stolen ID. Security cameras captured his image, and authorities were immediately notified. He was arrested on campus, surrounded by officers who had studied his every move. Daniel protested, claiming innocence, but evidence was overwhelming. His life of authority, manipulation, and obsession collapsed instantly. His arrest brought relief, but also lingering questions about how someone sworn to protect the public could plan such violence with meticulous precision. The court case revealed shocking details. Daniel had detailed plans targeting other students, showing that Esha and Farhan were only the beginning. His wife, divorced shortly after his crimes came to light, testified about his controlling and violent tendencies in previous states. Public was horrified by the depth of his obsession. Esha gave a statement to the court, urging authorities to investigate thoroughly to prevent future tragedies. She completed her degree while becoming an advocate for student safety, determined to turn trauma into purpose. Farhan was remembered through a memorial scholarship established at the university. His name became a symbol of courage, dedication, and hope. Esha honored him quietly, knowing that his kindness had helped her survive the darkness. The city returned to its usual rhythm, but the memory of Daniel's crimes remained embedded in its streets. The story of betrayal, obsession, and survival served as a chilling reminder that appearances can be deceiving. A uniform of authority had masked a deadly predator, and a young student's bravery had revealed the truth. The city would never forget the night when trust and betrayal collided in the shadows of Los Angeles.